by digital currency, by digital Chinese currency. Why? Because frankly, our central bank has been slow, and there's an appointment coming in January of 22. The president's got to decide whether to change over who's leading the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve runs our payment system, and I think we need to move that Federal Reserve into the modern era.
What about in 5 minutes if we hear that the world is trading oil in this digital yuan? What does that do to our economy?
With the technical testing phase of the FedNow service kicking off in mid-September, I want to particularly thank you, the early adopters, for the important investments you're making to prepare for the day when the FedNow service goes live. Together, we'll be ready to launch the FedNow service between May and July of 2023.
If we don't have a recession in 23, don't know the timing, but certainly by the end of 23, I will not be surprised if it's not larger than the so-called average garden variety. And I don't rule out, not my forecast, but I don't rule out something really bad. Why? Because if you look at the liquidity situation that has driven this,
by a record $1 trillion. That's the sort of headline story, the calculations that Bloomberg has been doing. Some are saying this is some kind of canary in the coal mine. Why is this grabbing so much attention?
Great. Thank you, Anna. I've got a chart which I think encapsulates why this time it's a little bit different. This is a chart with these white bars of quarterly change in global currency reserves, and this blue line is the Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index. So if we just look at what's happened recently, we've had a huge strengthening in the U.S. dollar and a dwindling of foreign currency reserves. This reflects countries like the Czech Republic, India, intervening in their FX markets to support their currencies. Now, if we take a step back and compare this to last time we had stress like this, in 2008, for example, countries across the globe, or foreign currency reserves across the globe had already been built up. You could almost picture it like their war chests were ready. We had the slowdown that 2008 brought. We had the Fed releasing dollar liquidity into the market via their dollar swap lines, and then after that we saw the dollar retrace. It's almost like they had enough fodder in their back pocket to weather this crisis. Now, if we take what Mary Daly told us yesterday, that it's a very high bar for the Fed to pivot here, they're not done with their inflation fight. You look at this and you think their war chests are already depleted. The dollar might not be peaking, and this might come back to haunt them because foreign governments and foreign central banks need these currency reserves, because what happens when, for instance, a bank within their economy or a large corporation all of a sudden needs some dollar funding? They turn to the central bank. That's their emergency outlet. The central bank then says, sorry, I'm already out.
Yeah.
This is almost dry fodder for cracks in the financial system to cause instability before inflation has started to reverse in the
Okay.
US.
And we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology.
Let me close by just again thanking our early adopters. The input you've provided has been instrumental for our team as they've designed and built this service, and the time and energy you've committed to this effort is critical for a successful launch. I want to call on additional banks and core service providers to join your commitment to prepare for adoption of the FedNow service. This time next year, I hope we can all have a great sense of accomplishment in our shared effort to transform America's payment system for the digital era.